Kia ora. Welcome to this video where I, Tabetha, am going to talk about my idea about coding. And this is where my psychic journey has taken me to be able to see the invisible threads that lie within us that shape our future. So it goes beyond the idea of the limiting belief system. So we have limiting belief systems such as the harder you work, the easier things get. Now, we've been taught to believe that that is real, and it isn't the case. Limiting beliefs include nice guys finish last. That's not necessarily true either. You will hear metaphors like money doesn't grow on trees. Those are the sorts of things that come into your limiting belief system. On the next layer, you have feelings of not being good enough, you don't deserve, etc., etc. Underneath, on a third layer, we have coding that happens when you're in your youth, okay? And a lot of people think that in order for you to have trouble in your adult life, you have to have some kind of big trauma. It's not the case. The coding that happens and is set up in our youth carries forward. So let's give some examples of that. So let's say that when you were at school, in high school, you had a boyfriend, you had a girlfriend, and somebody decided to play a joke on you, and it happened to involve your boy or girlfriend. And so then decades later into your adult life, you wonder why your relationships don't succeed. One of the reasons might be that this coding that was set up in that first original setup point is continuing to hold some power in your system. And that might result or relate to you not having confidence in relationships, and you might be finding yourself sabotaging those because you hadn't actually dealt with your feelings at the time, whatever they might have been from that setup that involved your partner at the time in high school. Now, for some people that might sound like a big jump, but the more that I do this work and the more aha moments that my clients have when they go, and I get them to describe what's happening now, and I say, well, what I'm hearing is the coding sounds like this. These are the behaviors and these are the words and this is the language. And sure enough, I'll get the psychic nudge of the age of the person. It might have been 5, 6 or 16. And I'll say, was there an experience at that age, and using the language you've used about what's happening now back then, and I'll piece it together. I'll get the downloads and they'll go, yeah, this is what happened. I said, can you see now why particular things in your life are not working because there was this incident here, and you might have written it off as small, but actually it's grown over the years because there's been another event to add to it, so it's grown. 10 years later, you have another event, so there's another layer to it. And that's what coding is about. So it's about identifying the code and then not analyzing the hell out of it. It's just acknowledging what else it might be attached to. And as you do that, you start to dissolve it. So where does this coding come from? As we've just seen, it can come from our youth. Sometimes it actually comes from our parents and what they call intergenerational trauma. So the same coding might come down 6 generations. It comes from society. It comes from our peer group. It comes from media. So there's lots of little fragments that make us up who we are. And so one of the biggest things that you'll find on your healing journey or your journey of empowerment is we are more than what we think we are. We are more than what we've been told we are, and we're more than meets the eye. So if you're at that point where you want to break free from the structure of your life at the moment because you know it's not working, one of the biggest things you can start doing is compassionate inquiry. And that is asking yourself, without the expectation of an answer or guidance, just simply pose the questions. What is the coding within me that is keeping me stuck in this particular part? And that bit there is important. That's the bit that you've got to start asking more specific questions to, using language. So if you don't understand the vocabulary involved in the coding, you're not going to be able to shift the coding as well. Are you attracting people who are bullies, narcissists, people who don't listen? Okay, or going back to the high school example, people who set you up. So did my parents do things without them knowing that they ended up setting me up in situations where I felt lost or disempowered? So sometimes it's a double whammy. So without getting too complicated, I just wanted to give some basics around my idea of what coding is. And the amazing thing is that once you understand what your coding contains, the easier it gets to identify it, the faster it gets, the quicker you can get that healing underway, the quicker you can release the trauma and you find yourself in that new reality. So coding is really, really important. And you'll notice not once through that did I talk about affirmations. We're not trying to put things in, we're focusing on removing things to create the space. And I've mentioned this before, that's when you get the affirmation that comes in organic, that is specific to you, and that's so much more powerful. So trust that this video helped and part of another wedge in the bigger part of the wheel. Right. All the best.